say? What do you say? What do you know, stupids? We are back. Welcome to the Bubcast, episode 8. It is a pleasure to hear from everybody. So we're going to go ahead and get this started. Crazy weekend in college football. This is going to be a college football episode. I'm not going to talk much NFL. This is going to be actually no NFL, to be honest. This is going to be all college football. So we're just going to talk about all the college football games. We had a few FBS games tonight. I'll talk about here in the morning on my TikTok and everything. But we're just going to get started. We're going to jump right into what happened last Saturday. Some crazy things. So, Michigan rolled Indiana 52-7. Ohio State beat Purdue 41-7. Florida State rolled Syracuse 41-3. And Penn State rolled UMass. So kind of some top 5 matchups, some rollouts, some blowouts, not rollouts. So that's where we'll kind of go from there. Notre Dame dominated USC. Caleb Williams looked human. Struggled 3 interceptions, 23-37. Didn't throw the ball very well. USC had 5 turnovers. Their defense was exposed. Too little, too late for Notre Dame, I think. Based on their schedule. Tough loss to Ohio State. Number 3, Ohio State. They beat number 17, Duke. But a bad loss on the road to Louisville. But they had 4 straight games against ranked opponents. And I think the Ohio State game, the Duke game, they didn't have anything left in the tank against Louisville. And we're just at wit's end. So, didn't look good. Kind of struggled. But USC was exposed. This is a big turnaround for USC. We're going to get a lot of answers from USC. See what they're doing. See what they got going on. It's going to be tough for USC. They still have Notre Dame finishes with Pitt at Clemson versus Wake Forest and at Stanford. So Notre Dame has an opportunity to get themselves in the New Year's Six Bowl, but I think that second loss is going to be tough for Notre Dame. So we'll kind of have to see. USC's got some answers. The no conference title game for Notre Dame really gives them a blunder for the national championship. So kind of go from there. What's next for USC? You really look at this game and you think, are they for real? Their defense was exposed, like I said. Caleb Williams struggled, looked human, didn't look dominant against the teams that he played prior to. So you kind of have to ask yourself, is USC for real? What are they bringing to the table? Can they continue to get better? Are they going to struggle? This team was in preseason talked about Final Four, and now they could finish the year with 3 losses. They still have a rough end of their year. They've got 2 games against the top 10 and 2 games in the top 25. They play 14 Utah, 5 Washington, at Oregon, and versus 25 UCLA. So those games aren't going to be easy. I see USC struggling against Oregon and Washington, especially with Oregon and Washington's high-powered offense. Caleb Williams is going to have to match that, and their defense isn't going to be able to just hang with them. If their defense gives up 5 touchdowns, that means Caleb Williams has to throw 5. It needs to be borderline perfect, and that's what you saw against the Notre Dame game. The defense let them hang to dry, and they struggled. So I think my prediction is I think that this will be the USC downfall. I don't see them getting back from this. I think it's going to be tough for them, so we'll just have to wait and see. Bama continued to roll with Milroe, beat Arkansas 24-21. They're rolling. They're right in the thick of the SEC. North Carolina continues to roll in the ACC. They're 6-0, 3-0 in ACC play. They beat Miami 41-31. May threw 4 touchdowns. His main guy, Walker, had 6 receptions, 152 yards, and 3 touchdowns, so looked good. Love this UNC offense. They had some bad penalties for 147 yards, but they get that fixed. I really like their offense, see what they can do throughout the year. They have a chance to finish undefeated. UNC's got to play FSU, which will be a great win. It could be a good loss for them either way because they could get back into the ACC championship game and play FSU again. We've got conferences lined up that teams are going to end up playing repeat modes. So Big 12, Oklahoma, and Texas could end up playing again. UNC and FSU in the ACC could play again. Michigan, Ohio State could play in the not the Big 10 championship game, but they could play in the college football playoff again. We've got matchups that could potentially go back to back, which is really going to help the energy and the vibes for college football. So we'll just kind of see how that goes. They play Duke at home. Duke's a good team, and then they play on the road at Clemson. So UNC's got some tests. They got 3 games that, are going to give them a run for their money. They lose one of those games, I still think they have a chance. Like I said, they have a chance to go into the ACC championship game with 1 loss. And a 1-loss ACC champion, people are going to put FSU in there undefeated. You put in a 1-loss UNC, that's feasible. That's possible. With this era of the ACC play right now, that could happen. The game we're going to really go into is number 7. Washington wins a thriller against Oregon. Both QBs dominated. They both had 300 yards. Oregon went for it on 4th and 3 on Washington's 47 when they were already with 2 minutes left and they were up 33-29. It was 4th and 3 and they threw the ball. Risky, they get that first down, the game's over. But they don't get the first down, and then it gets Washington a chance. But, it gives Washington a chance to go down and score. So Oregon's defense, we possibly could hold them. They got less than a minute 14 to score. Well, 2 plays later, Washington scores. And then Oregon had a minute 15 to get in field goal range. So Washington scored close. After 2 minutes were left, Washington scored with a minute 30, and it went back to Oregon getting the ball with 1:15, and Oregon needed to get into field goal range, and they got to Washington's 25-yard line in a minute and 10 seconds. So Oregon goes for it on 4th and down, doesn't get it. Washington 2 plays later scores. Then Oregon gets the ball and has to drive 50 yards in a little under a minute, and they do. And they get to the 25-yard line, and they miss the 43-yard field goal. So, didn't look good. I mean, it was a great game. That game was equal out, and that's going backtrack to USC playing Washington again. Oregon playing Washington again, potentially in the Pac-12, because they're both going to end up possibly 1-2. What's next for Washington and Oregon? I think both teams are great. I think both teams gave a lot, showed a lot. I think both these teams are still in line to finish 1-2 in the Pac-12. I think USC's kind of shown face, what to expect from USC. Oregon has a schedule, the remaining schedule with 1 loss can get them in the Pac-12 championship against another Washington, and then that could potentially be a play-in for the College Football National Championship or the Final Four. I think a 1-loss ACC, 1-loss Pac-12, whoever wins the Big Ten, Alabama, unless the 5 and 6 are real close, I think a 1-loss Pac-12 could get in. So that's really, really a good idea. Oregon, they have Washington State at Utah versus at home against number 18 USC and home against Oregon State. So Oregon's got some, potential lineups. That USC game is going to be huge. That Utah game is always going to be tough. Oregon State's going to be tough. The Pac-12 has 6 ranked teams, which is nuts for a dismantled league. No one really. I didn't think that this was going to be a league of they were going to try and get it going. So, did not expect Pac-12 to do so well. Washington has a tough schedule. They have road games, so Oregon's kind of got an easier path than Washington does, but Washington has a head-to-head win. So Washington has a tough schedule. They go on the road against USC and Oregon State, and they play Utah at home. Oregon State's tough at home. USC is tough. They got to make a play for themselves, and then they play Utah at home. So, Oregon's got it tough. USC's got to make something out of themselves. They're going to play them tough, and Oregon State's going to play them tough. Washington State lost big against it and continues to struggle. Washington State underperformed this year as of right now. They lost to Arizona big. Louisville has a tough loss against Pitt on the road. Hangover game from the Notre Dame game. Louisville did not look good. Louisville looked like the exact opposite team that beat that beat Notre Dame. Louisville got shut out in the second half. Louisville's still in for the ACC championship game. They have games in their schedule that they're going to play. They play Duke at home, they go to Miami, and they play against UK. So with 1 loss, they're in the thick of it. They could be that outside team looking in to play in the ACC championship game. They could be a 1-loss team playing against a FSU, a UNC, that equals out, and that could be huge. So. Oregon State had a big win against UCLA. Oregon State is still alive in the Pac-12. There are some teams that are still alive. Oregon State has games against these players, the teams that are above them. So they play games against USC, Oregon, teams that are above them, and they knock them down and play spoiler and give them an opportunity to play spoiler. They play at Colorado, they home against Washington, and they play at Oregon. So they can play spoiler. They can put themselves in the race. Everything is wide open. Now that Washington's the only undefeated team, or everyone has a loss in the Pac-12, a second loss can still put you in the title game. So a lot's up in the air. This episode is going to talk about and give you a lot of questions to think how the season's going to go. A lot of questions are going to be answered, and then this Saturday is going to have a lot of those questions answered. Utah has big wins to stay in the Pac-12 race. Utah has struggled a little bit early, but they got the hang of it, and they had some good wins, so those wins are going to keep them alive. Like I said, everyone's alive. This is a race to the finish, spoiler, tough games, trap games, so we'll see how that goes. Duke won against NC State, keeps them alive, 2-0 in the ACC, so that one loss, same type of thing. Duke's going to play teams above them. Duke's going to play spoiler. Duke's going to play teams that have the opportunity to revamp the current standings. So we'll kind of see how that goes. But the Pac-12 and the ACC really up for grabs. And you've got teams that are 3-4 that are playing 1-2, that are playing 4-5, that are teams that are going to be playing. So the shift or move and the move around is going to be huge. So you got teams that could play spoiler. You got teams that could end teams' hopes of playing the ACC championship game, and that would also end the college football championship. So Texas A&M continues to struggle against big teams, loses to Tennessee 20-13. Tennessee plays Bama this week, which is going to be huge. A lot of questions for Texas A&M. What are they going to do? What are they going to do about Jimbo Fisher? They got some questions to answer. Another, much better season than last year, but still not where they need to be. Preseason hype with all the NIL deals and all these people. So Tennessee, like I just said, is still alive. Big games coming up at number 11 Alabama this Saturday. They play 20 Mizzou, and they have a home game against Georgia. So Tennessee has a chance to beat the number 1 team. Number 11 Bama, who's ahead of them in the standings, and number 20 Mizzou. So Tennessee could also get in the SEC championship game with one loss and play spoiler to Georgia and give Bama a second loss. So the SEC is lined up with the Pac-12 and everyone else in that conference to line things up and make it difficult and hard for teams to get to the college football championship and their conference championship. So we'll see how that goes. SEC, other than Georgia, has a lot up for grabs. You've got Tennessee playing Georgia still. You got teams that are undefeated that are going to be playing teams that have one loss, that are that have the potential to revamp the standing or rankings after 1 week in the standings in the SEC. Georgia loses, that changes everything. Tennessee wins, or Tennessee loses, that changes a lot of things. You've got games coming up that are going to really start to set stone for who's going to be where in the SEC, Pac-12, in the ACC. Teams below win, it's going to shake things up. The teams above keep winning. It's going to kind of just iron it out and be kind of a plaid vanilla. So LSU beat Auburn big, 48-18. Number 24 Kentucky loses to Mizzou. Kentucky has struggled. They got shellacked from Georgia and just have struggled ever since. Hasn't looked good since a blowout loss, 51-13 to Georgia. In the SEC West, you've got number 11 Bama, 4-0, 6-1 total. 4-0 conference, 6-1 overall. 19 LSU, 4-1, 5-2. Number 13 Ole Miss, 2-1 and 5-1. Ole Miss already lost to Bama. LSU lost to Ole Miss, so you've got 6-1, 5-2, and 5-1. Georgia's got Bama's got tough games, and you got games that are going to line up for potential to see what happens with the SEC. So, number 20 Mizzou is 2-1 and 6-1 overall. Florida still plays Georgia, but with 2 losses doesn't really help Florida. Florida's kind of play spoiler. They could ruin the party for the rest of them. Give Georgia a loss that would, possibly knock them out of the SEC championship game. Number 17, Tennessee plays Bama, like I said. Also plays Georgia later in the year, so those games are going to line up. Tennessee has the opportunity to play spoiler, has the opportunity to do big things, so we'll kind of see where that goes. A lot of questions need to be answered, but we'll kind of go as we go each week to see what's going on. The SEC has some great games coming up, and that'll start to tell a story. So that'll start to see where Georgia is, and truthfully, Tennessee, Bama, with these 4-0, 4-1, 2-1, 5-1, 5-2, 6-1, how close that is. These games are just going to go flippy floppy. You can go Bama could be number 1 in the SEC in their division, and then it could flip with one loss. So, Big 12. We were just talking about the Big 12. Oklahoma State had a big win against number 25 Kansas. Big 12 had a few teams on a bye, so Oklahoma and Texas didn't play. Oklahoma and Texas are the top of the Big 12 right now. Boomer Sooner is 3-0 and 6-0, and Texas is 2-1 and 5-1. They haven't even gotten into the big conference games yet. Just like every conference I've been talking about, everyone except like the Big 10. You've got teams that are 3, 4 in standings, even 5, and are playing teams that are 1s and 2s, and have a very good chance to beat them and shake everything up and just do a quick swap-a-roo. So there are 4 out of our 5 power conferences are still up for grabs. Ohio State and Michigan are looking to be like whoever takes that will win, probably against the Wisconsin. But Pac-12, Big 12, SEC, and the ACC still up for grabs. And it's going to be crazy, and as the episodes go, it's going to get crazier and crazier and crazier, and you're going to start to see storylines and games and weekends, and this week will answer some questions. Each week will answer questions, and we'll get closer and closer to it. In the Big 12, you've got 4 teams are 2-1 in conference. That's including Texas, and Boomer Sooners 3-0. So, and we're all getting into the deep conference games. So you're going to have teams that are going to start to like weed out. Next couple weeks, you're going to have teams drop, go up. That's that story. KSU, West Virginia, OSU, Kansas, BYU all have 2 losses. So that's kind of, those 2 teams are kind of just fighting for bowl games. They're kind of really just playing spoiler at this point. Most of those teams haven't been good. Kansas has been ranked at one point. KSU started ranked, struggled. So BYU, they've been Texas and Oklahoma look like the favorites. I think they're going to play again in the Big 12 championship game, which would be not only great for college football, but great to watch that game. That'd be insane. Texas has a pretty easy road to finish with 1 loss. They go at TCU, at Iowa State. 2 tough road games. Good. 2 tough road games. Oklahoma has a similar schedule at Kansas, at OSU. Could be tough, and they have a home game against TCU. So, Texas and Oklahoma have, their own destiny per se. Everything's kind of laid out for them to determine whether or not they're going to finish with 1 loss. Well, Oklahoma could go undefeated, but then Texas has 1 loss, and then they would play each other. I think Texas would end up being the 2 seed. So, those 2 teams, they kind of have their own. They win, they're in type of thing for the Big 12 championship game. ACC is kind of the same. Teams that keep winning, or win the schedule they have, they should be good to go. So now we're kind of just going to finish up. This is going to be a quick episode. We're just summarizing the college football from last week. On TikTok, I'll post some scores for the Wednesday, Thursday night games, and possibly Friday. I think there are Friday games because it's crazy. I'm looking on ESPN. I'm like, man, there's games Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'll predict the games this weekend, this Saturday, the top 25 in the FBS on TikTok. Follow us on TikTok at the Bubcast. So we'll just go through the top 25 real quick. So you got 25 UCLA, 24 Iowa, 23 Tulane, 22 Air Force. First top 25 ranking since 2019. Go Falcons. 21 Louisville. 20 Mizzou, 19 LSU, 18 USC, 17 Tennessee, 16 Duke, 15 Notre Dame, 14 Utah, 13 Ole Miss, 12 Oregon State, 11 Bama, 10 North Carolina, 9 Oregon, 8 Texas, 7 Penn State, 6 Oklahoma, 5 Washington, 4 FSU, 3 Ohio State, 2 Michigan, 1 Georgia. Some big moves in the top 25. USC dropped 8 spots. Louisville dropped 7. Notre Dame went up 6. Top 4 did not change. unranked to ranked. Mizzou, Air Force, Tulane, and Iowa all went from unranked to ranked, so congrats to them. And the people who dropped were Miami, Washington State, Kansas, and Kentucky all dropped, which wasn't a surprise at all because all four of those teams looked horrible. Now I'm just gonna go over some big games that are coming up, that are gonna be out this week for Week 8, and it's gonna preview some games, and then I will make my predictions on these games. I'm just pulling some games out to give you all some watch. I'm gonna go on Twitter and give you some good games to watch. These games that I picked are pretty much gonna be the same ones I put on Twitter to watch. Give you lines for these games, pick the winners. I'll upload the whiteboard of top 25 FBS. So you got 13 Ole Miss at Auburn, good game. You got 4-2 TCU at 4-2 KSU. Both of those teams are unranked. You got 16 Duke at FSU. That is going to be a big game for the ACC. Going to determine where FSU is. It's going to give, is Duke for real? Can Duke hang? What's it going to look like if Duke gets blown out? What's it going to look like if FSU loses a close game? That game's going to do a lot for the ACC. You got 14 Utah at 18 USC. Can Utah take USC's chances of the college football playoffs and eliminate with 2 losses? Will that win get Utah a shot at the Pac-12? You got number 17 Tennessee at Bama. Probably the best game to watch. Penn State, Ohio State could be a blowout, but that could also be a close game, a potential top 5 matchup, because Tennessee's 17 and Bama's 11, so that's a top 15-ish matchup. So that game is going to determine a lot in the SEC. So keep an eye out for number 17 Tennessee and number 11 Bama. Tennessee's defensive line is going to make it hard for them. I think it's going to be a great game. We'll kind of see where both these teams are at and where the rest of the SEC is after that. 22 Air Force at Navy. Give that a ride. Air Force and Navy. Why not? It's always going to be a good game. So got to write that on there. 4-2 Oklahoma State at 4-2 WVU. Big 12 matchup. Big 12 matchup. Unranked teams. They're still looking to play spoiler. Still looking to get wins on the board. You got 4-2 Clemson at 4-2 Miami. Both unranked again. Both teams are looking to play in the ACC. Both teams are looking to continue and have the potential to play spoiler. Still looking to get bowl games. Both unranked. Both have 2 losses, so we're kind of not talking playoff. Play spoiler, get a good bowl game. So those are kind of the games. I'm gonna post my predictions on TikTok. I'm gonna post my predictions on Twitter probably Thursday/Friday, either Thursday night or Friday afternoon. For the Saturday top 25 and the Saturday FBS games, I'll put those on. I'll go on Twitter and kind of give you some lines and some what games to watch, what times, and then I'm going to go on TikTok and make some predictions. Going forward, I'm going to start making episodes about strictly NFL and then strictly college football. So my Sunday night episode will be college football. My Wednesday night will be NFL. So I know it's kind of backwards right now. I'm trying to get more consistent, a little backwards. So I appreciate everybody. Follow us on Instagram, Bubcast Official, Twitter at the Bubcast _, TikTok at the Bubcast, and YouTube at the Bubcast. I appreciate the follows, the views, whether you're watching it while you're sleeping, while you're watching it in the background. I appreciate the views. I know it's all sports. Right now my setup is just me, myself, and I, looking to get more stuff out there. So I appreciate the likes. I hope that was some good college football information. It's late, so I'm trying not to wake anybody up. So I'm kind of whispering, breathing heavy. So don't know why I said all that, but yeah. Appreciate the follow, and like and subscribe. The video will be up later tonight. Appreciate y'all.